Hi, my name is Chelsea Pinto. I'm an elementary education major, and I wrote a research paper entitled Comparative Analysis of Public and Private High Schools in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm curious about this because I'm from Louisville, and I went to a public high school, and I was wondering if it was true that I could get a better education if I had paid the money for private high school, and if not, what are the purposes that people do choose private education? So first, I wanted to discuss the prices of private education in Louisville, Kentucky. Private schools do not have to report information. They don't have to report prices, any test scores, anything about their schools if they don't want to. However, some do choose to, and I found this information on Private School Review, which is a website that gathers information from the private schools that decide to release it. Mercy Academy is an all-girls school, and it costs $8,650 yearly to attend. Presentation Academy, another all-girls school, costs $9,135 yearly. St. Xavier, an all-boys school, is $9,225 yearly. And Trinity High School, another all-boys school, is $10,825 yearly. All of the above more expensive than WKU. But to discuss their ACT scores, ACT is the only true publicly released testament of comparison between public and private schools because it's the only test that both schools have to take. And between all of the private schools I just mentioned and also Christian Academy of Louisville and Assumption, the average ACT score fell between a 23 and a 24. For public schools in Louisville, Kentucky, DuPont Manual High School achieved a 25.5 on the ACT, and the remaining schools that I mentioned in my paper of the public schools were a 22 or lower. So what sets DuPont Manual above the rest is that it's a magnet school, and it has a bunch of special programs catered to a student's interests. It's almost as though having a major in high school. And some of the magnets it includes are communication and media arts, visual arts, youth performing arts, high school university, math, science, and technology philosophy. So, being that DuPont Manual is the top school in Louisville, I wondered what reasons people do choose to attend a private education. Through scholarly journals, I found several bits of information that can identify these reasons. The first journal was written by Jap Dronkers and Sylvia Abram, and a quote from that referring to reasons why people choose private education. The first one can be characterized as a choice of the upwardly mobile parents for private schools. The second one might be pictured as a preference for segregation by lower middle class parents. So by that, I gather that the upper class members of private school society are there because they can afford to be, and alternately, the middle class use the private school option as a means of segregation. So I was wondering if that highlights discrimination, and that made me look into an article written by Robert Farley and Alexandra Resch, and it spoke about white flight. It says, white families are fleeing from public schools with large concentrations of poor minority students. In addition, the clearest flight might be from poor black school children. But there are other reasons other than white flight and upperly mobile expenses. In fact, one article I read identified that Catholics are more likely to attend private school than are members of other religious groups, and Catholics are more likely to attend private school than any other school system. Another article I read was about teacher preferences. It was written by Greg Forster and Christian DeAndrea, and one quote that highlights the fact that teachers definitely prefer to teach in the private school sector. The quote says, private school teachers are much more likely to say that they will continue teaching as long as they are able, while public school teachers are much more likely to say they'll leave teaching as soon as they are eligible for retirement. Clearly, the private school teachers enjoy their job more and want to do it as long as possible. Other statistics include about teaching in private schools that teachers feel more supported, that their job is more meaningful, they have more resources and more control over the utilization of those resources, and also that there is less racial conflict. The fact that there is less racial conflict brought me back to the white flight notion, and it made me curious about the ethnicity ratios in private and public schools. Between the private schools that I wrote about in my paper, Private School Review indicated that those schools had between 2% and 12% students of color. And as far as public schools go, it's between 26 and 58% students of color. So obviously, there's going to be less racial conflict in the private schools because there are less races to conflict in those schools. But in conclusion, DuPont Manual is statistically the best high school in Louisville, Kentucky. However, private school comes after that statistically, and there are a lot of reasons why people might choose private schools, why it might be more appropriate for them. Private schools offer a feeling of family, traditions, religion, support, and offer a more comfortable and safe learning environment with less racial tension. And although the prices of private school tuition can be in the same ballpark as a college tuition, those values make the expense worth it to many families.